Let's get to the news. According to the Washington Post, President Biden exercises most mornings by lifting weights before he begins work. That makes sense because he is clearly not using the Stairmaster. I'm sorry, but the clip is fun. He's fine. According to the Washington Post, President Biden occasionally goes to the South Lawn or Rose Garden during the day to get fresh air with his dogs Champ and Major, while the rest of the staff goes literally anywhere else. Somebody commented me that it's time to stop making fun of Major biting people. I feel like a year. He has to go a year without biting anyone. President Biden said on Friday that he would not allow the Justice Department to seize the phone records of journalists. Well, that explains Matt Gaetz's new hat. President Biden has reportedly continued a tradition started by former President Obama of reading 10 letters each night that are sent to the White House by individual Americans. Though in the Obama days, they were mostly from Joe. Former Vice President Mike Pence and former Second Lady Karen Pence have reportedly purchased a new home outside of Indianapolis. And of course, it was outside the city because you know this guy doesn't go downtown. Bays. Alex Bays as I live and breathe. A New York librarian was arrested last Friday for allegedly robbing a bank. Well, trying to, at least. Okay, everyone hit the floor. Because they'd whisper outside the library. That's the thing about librarians. People think it's about the library. It's like, it's fundamentally inside them. It was announced last week that Pope Francis will get a new electric Pope-mobile. Of course, before he can plug the charger into the outlet, they have to get married. According to a new study, dogs can effectively detect the coronavirus with 97% accuracy, which is great news because that's the only provider in your network. Scientists reported that the largest iceberg in the world broke off from Antarctica last week, and it's roughly 70 times larger than Manhattan. Yeah, but I bet they don't have any good restaurants. And finally, yesterday was Lucky Penny Day. Right, because who's luckier than Abraham Lincoln? Look, I don't have to read the Mike Scollins jokes. I get that. But otherwise, if I didn't, you wouldn't know what I'm putting up with day in and day out. If you see something, say something. The National Guard yesterday began withdrawing troops from the U.S. Capitol following a 5-month deployment after the January insurrection, which is strange considering they didn't even get all the insurrectionists out yet. The White House announced today that the U.S. has officially vaccinated 50% of its adult population, and they expect that by the end of September, they will have vaccinated the other 7 or 8%. That's right, the White House announced today that the U.S. has officially vaccinated 50% of its adult population, as well as one 11-year-old with a mustache. Could I get a Moderna and a case of Mike's Hard Lemonade? Whose Schwinn is that outside? So lame. President Biden is expected to meet with Russian President Vladimir Putin next month in Switzerland for their first face-to-face summit, or, face-to-chest. I just hope it doesn't come down to a staring contest because both of those guys have had a lot of Botox. Could be a long one. President Biden announced yesterday that Secretary of State Tony Blinken will travel this week to Israel to discuss the ceasefire between Israel and Hamas. Okay, can we send someone a little more intimidating? Tony Blinken looks like a guy who thinks your mom's a real special lady, but isn't trying to replace your dad. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis yesterday signed a law regulating social media companies' moderation of user speech. Said Twitter, "Sir, it's just spell check." Vice President Kamala Harris said yesterday that broadband internet is, quote, critical to infrastructure. And then Spectrum added a 30-cent critical to infrastructure fee. Google announced last week it will open its first ever physical retail store this summer in New York. And get this, Tinder already did. That's right, Google announced last week it will open its first ever physical retail store this summer in New York, although it will be weird to ask a salesperson a question and get 1.3 million answers. A Florida woman who was wearing nearly no clothing was arrested over the weekend after she allegedly stole a car and led authorities on a high-speed chase. And to give you an idea what Florida is like, the police refer to that as a Code 1. A bank robbery is a Code 2. According to new research, a day on Venus lasts nearly 6,000 hours. So same as Earth? Asked Amazon workers. And finally, producers have announced that a documentary about lifestyle expert Martha Stewart will stream on Netflix. And if you don't have a Netflix account, she'll show you how to make one out of driftwood and corn husks. The Manhattan District Attorney has reportedly convened a grand jury that is expected to decide whether to indict former President Trump. God, imagine that arrest. You have the right to an attorney, but as a friend, I wouldn't recommend it. Former President Trump said on his website today that his administration is the reason for low coronavirus cases and successful vaccine rollout in the U.S., which is sort of like the captain of the Hindenburg saying, "Don't forget who got us off the ground." Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene is facing criticism after tweeting that coronavirus vaccine passports and mask mandates are just like Nazis forcing Jewish people to wear a gold star. It's the first time she's wanted people to be undocumented. A junior high principal in Arkansas apologized recently after the school's yearbook featured a photo of former President Donald Trump with the caption, "President Trump was not impeached." He also apologized for the claim that Trump was too sweet to be forgotten. According to a new study, researchers believe that the maximum age a human could physically reach is 150 years old. Challenge accepted, said the U.S. Senate. Former baseball player Alex Rodriguez recently launched a line of concealer for men, and then men tried to put it on wedding rings. I tried to deliver it the way I feel Jenny would have wanted me to. And then men. According to a new study, relocating wolves to areas with frequent car accidents caused by deer can reduce collisions by 24%, which almost makes up for the 3,000% increase in wolf attacks. According to a recent survey, the average American believes they can survive for 16 days in the wilderness, adding, wait, what's the Wi-Fi password? Today is World Redhead Day, but then the sun came out and they had to cancel. And finally, according to a new report, poison control centers in the U.S. experienced a significant increase in marijuana-related calls between 2017 and 2019, and they always started the same way. Hello? What's the emergency? Hello? Who is this? Man, you called me. President Biden yesterday called on China to participate in a, quote, full, transparent, evidence-based internal investigation to find the origins of COVID-19. Said China, honestly, can this wait? We are just slammed with COVID-21. Sure, no problem. That's right. President Biden called on China to participate in an investigation to find the origins of COVID-19. And I just got to say, if it's not bats, we owe them a major apology. It's going to be like one of those double jeopardy scenarios where they've been wrongfully blamed for a crime, so now they really do get to start a pandemic. According to a new report, former President Trump tried to intervene in 2008 to stop the investigation of the New England Patriots' so-called Spygate scandal. Wait, he was involved in that scandal too? He's like the Forrest Gump of scandals. Next, we're going to find out he was one of the 1919 Black Sox. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson reportedly considered getting the coronavirus injected in his body on live TV last summer because he thought the virus wasn't a threat. Who are you, Prime Minister Johnny Knoxville? Boris Johnson's the only UK leader to come with his own theme music. The Recording Academy yesterday announced changes to the Grammy Awards nomination process. That's right. You can now be nominated if you're Taylor Swift or Beyoncé. Today was Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's 47th birthday, which is also the only accurate information on her Facebook page. That's right. Today was Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene's 47th birthday. And if you're wondering what to get her, how about help?